Hey there, Craig here from Chiropractic. Now, if your kids have been spending a little bit too much time hunched over their devices or their computer, and you're a little bit worried about what it's doing to their posture, then this video is for you. I'm going to give you 5 alternative ways of using your device that your kids or even yourself can try to help take some of the strain off of your back. So I had a comment on my Facebook page last week where someone said they wanted to bring their son in to get checked because they've been spending too much time hunched over their devices and their computers during the lockdown. Now, I assume this is pretty common for a lot of kids and even adults during the lockdown as we were making most of being at home. So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 alternative ways of using your device or your computer that will hopefully take some of the strain off of your back. But before I start, there's a quote that I always sort of try and explain this to people is your body gets good at what it needs to get good at. And what I mean by that is if we're going to spend a lot of time hunched over around and looking down at our device, our body's going to get really good at doing that. But as soon as you want to go into a more neutral posture or a better posture, for want of a better term, it's going to be difficult and you're not going to be able to maintain that for very long. So the question here is to ask is, what do you want your body to get good at? Do you want it to be rounded over and slouched and have that paw type posture, or do you want it to be in a more neutral posture, which is going to take some of the strain off of your neck and your shoulders and your back? So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 alternative ways of using your device and your computer, which will hopefully do just that. It'll help take some of the strain off your back and hopefully start that process of getting your back a little bit stronger so you can maintain that better posture for longer. Alright, so our first tip is going to be that when using our device, we want to try and keep our back as straight as possible. So if we have a look from the side, if we're using our device and we're doing this, now this is not an ideal posture. Round in the back, your head's forward, can cause mid-back tension and tightness. So we want to try and keep our back straight. So alternative, one way of doing this would be to hold your iPad or your phone here, which obviously is not going to be very sustainable because you're not going to be able to hold that for very long. So what we can do then do with this is we're going to keep our back straight, we're going to hinge forward and rest our elbows onto our knees. This is going to allow us to maintain a straighter back. Our head's not going to be hunched forward like it was, rounded forward, and we can hold our iPad or our phone or our tablet here quite comfortably for a reasonable period of time. So it's more about trying to avoid that rounding, keeping the back straight when we hinge forward, and that's going to take a lot of the strain off of your back and neck. So the second tip here is to lay on your stomach on the floor with your elbows on the ground in front of you, holding your device there. This is a really great way of taking out any of that rounding of the back, that forward head position. It almost puts you into a little bit of extension, which is basically the opposite of rounded, right? So this is flexion, go into extension. So when we lie on our stomach on our forearms, holding our device, it's a really great way of just basically nullifying any of that rounding of the back. Of course, if you do this and you do have some back pain, then please stop and you may need to get that looked at. But for most people, this is quite a comfortable position. It's a really great way of just counterbalancing some of that roundedness that we often find ourselves in during the day. Our third tip here is to use some sort of stand for your device, whether you use like a cookbook stand like this or whether your device's cover has its own inbuilt stand. Using that is a great way of just protecting your head a little bit from having it bent right over to look at the device that might be flat on the table. So that is a really simple tip, but it does work, and it works especially well when you use it in conjunction with our next tip, which is perching on the edge of your seat. Our fourth tip is a way of sitting on a chair which is going to enable you to sit up a little bit straighter. Now, I call it perching on the edge of your chair. This is great if you're using your computer or you're sitting at a table. So rather than slouching against the back of a chair like this, which inevitably puts us into that rounded position, right? We want to perch on the edge of the chair or sit on the edge of the chair and tilt your pelvis forward. So you can see my pelvis tilted forward, puts a nice neutral curve in my lumbar spine or my lower back, which basically forces me to sit up straighter. And this is how you would do your work for a period of time. When you first do it, you'll probably find that it'll be a bit uncomfortable. You can't maintain it for very long just because you haven't got the strength in those muscles that we're using. But the more you do it, the better it gets. I found that using a stool, which is what I use when I'm seeing clients at work, you just get used to it and you get stronger and stronger. And now when I'm sitting in front of a computer, I quite often find myself sitting like this rather than leaning against the back, which inevitably puts me into that rounded paw head position. Okay, so basically, once again, perch on the edge of your chair, rock your pelvis forward, put a nice neutral position of your lower back, enables you to sit up straighter for longer. So our fifth and final tip, or a good way of sitting, is to use some sort of bolster. Okay, now in the previous one we talked about perching on the edge of your chair with the pelvis rocked forward, which is great. Now, as I said, you're not going to be able to maintain that for too long if you haven't done it before, and you might want to then move against the back of the chair. So rather than just collapsing and going back into that rounded position again, what you can use is a bolster, something like this. This is called a body bolster, which is great, but you can just use a rolled up towel or a little bit of a pillow if you want to. You're going to place this in your lower back, and then when you sit back against the chair, it's going to stop you from tilting that pelvis under. So it's going to stop you from rounding your back, going into that position by basically just holding your lower back into a better position, which will enable your upper back to maintain that better position. So as long as you're sitting in this nice neutral position and your workstation or your device, your tablet set up properly, it's going to be able to help you maintain a better posture for longer. So there you have my 5 tips that you can use yourself, and you can show your kids on how to take some of the strain off of their back and neck when using their devices or their computers. I hope they help, you find them helpful. If you do have any questions, please comment down below or feel free to give the clinic a call. And of course, if you want to make a time for an assessment to get looked at properly from a chiropractic point of view, then feel free again to give the clinic a call and we can find a suitable time. But in the meantime, take care and we'll see you soon.